Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, December 4th, 2018. And before we make a motion on the agenda, I would like to take a moment to recognize the passing of the 41st President of the United States of America, President George H.W. Bush. At one time, I called him COC, or Commander-in-Chief, while I was in the Navy. And I can tell you that we had a lot of respect for that man. He was just dignified. And we in uniform knew that we were going to be well taken care of. He treated us in uniform, and even those who never wore a uniform, with the utmost dignity and humanity and humility. He was a decent, humble man whose life's experience and resume, by the likes of which I don't know if we'll ever see again. Naval aviation, World War II veteran, congressman, I believe it was an ambassador to China, CIA director, RNC chairman, vice president, and of course president. And through it all, and what's been wonderful about the past few days is just being reminded of what a nice individual he was. Loving father, loving husband of over 73 years. To the same woman who he loved right up to the end, his silver fox, Barbara, who he has now joined. To President George H.W. Bush, I say this: fair winds and following seas. And if I could ask you all to just give us a moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. All right, are there any amendments? Oh, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any amendments to the agenda tonight?
I do not have any.
Okay, I have nothing.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. All right, here are tonight's announcements. Next Tuesday, December 11th, right here in this town hall, upstairs. The special town election for the debt exclusion question will be on Tuesday, December 11th in the Great Hall from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The last day to request an absentee ballot for this election is Monday, December 10th at noontime. So this is the election on the debt exclusion, the funding for the field project of the school, okay? The 2019 dog tags are available in the town clerk's office. You can purchase in the office or online. Please be sure to have a current rabies certificate on file or bring an updated copy with you at the time you register your dog. The 2019 dog tags are due by March 31st, 2019 to avoid any late fees. This Saturday, December 8th, 2018 at 2 p.m., the holiday concert and sing-along featuring the Neshoba Valley Concert Band and the Ayer Shirley Middle and High School Chorus. On Sunday, December 19th, Sunday, December 9th, 2018 at 2 p.m. is the Tuba Christmas 2018. The tuba players from all over New England playing traditional Christmas carols and other holiday favorites. And both events are going to be held in the beautiful Great Hall upstairs here at the town hall. Okay. No other announcements, right? Okay. Anyone here for public input? Okay. Full crowd tonight. All right. So first up is the joint appointment by the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board for a planning board vacancy. If I can ask the planning board to come and join us.
I'll move over one. We'll sit here.
Get extra. Okay. You never know.
do you need to call to order or anything? No? Okay. All right, so I understand. So tonight, you had a vacancy in the planning board, and you have somebody that you're bringing forward, and we're doing the joint appointment, and you're very familiar.
We did this a year ago.
You're
Almost.
finally getting in.
Except for this guy. Right here.
See, you're very persistent, and you keep just like, I'm going to keep showing up. I like that. I like that. You know, a little tenacity. I like that. So, okay, so you are Jonathan Krantz.
I am.
Yes, and if you'd like to say a few words.
Oh, sure. Thank you. And welcome, everybody. I recognize some faces and there's some that are new. Hello. And, I guess I should, let me turn this way so I can face everybody. Okay, right, so you're gonna just want to say hello.
Politician.
Just very quickly, my wife and I, Eileen, is sitting in the back. We moved with our family here almost 2 years ago. December 16th will be 2 years. We took the old Anderson Funeral Home on Washington Street. I fell in love, we all fell in love with the town. I fell in love with it. In the past, I've been a park ranger. I've been on the board of a nonprofit school. I've been this will really impress you now, the president of the Southern New England chapter of the Society for Industrial Archaeology. Okay. So that means I have a lot of interest. And while I have no experience in development or planning, I do have an enthusiasm for the town, and I recognize the significance of the decisions that are made. Because ultimately, I think the town is the sum of many small decisions. And that's why they're all important. So I consider this an honor, and I look forward to working with my colleagues, and I thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
And you're prepared to run for election in April?
Am I prepared? I said I will, certainly. But prepared, yes. Prepared, I don't know, but yes, I will do it, yes.
Well, as one of the members of the board here, I can tell you the man has constantly volunteered to attend, be a part of the town, so I think that's great. So, Scott, did you have any questions?
Incredibly enthusiastic. Thank you very much. I will say that yes, finding volunteers for the boards and committees in town is always a challenge, so to have someone come forward with such enthusiasm is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning board? Welcome.
Thank you, Julie.
Scott has been, Madam Chair, he's been attending the last few meetings that we've had, and he's getting up to speed, and he's been anxious to learn everything we have to study and learn as planning board members. So we're anxiously looking forward to having him join our board. It'll also make it much easier for us to have quorums, which are required, obviously, to keep the meetings going and keep the planning board material moving. So we look forward to having Jonathan join the board.
Okay. All right, who wants to make the first motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Jonathan Krantz as a member of the planning board for a term expiring in April. Is that correct? April 29th.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Board of Selectmen say aye. Now you guys do it.
Oh, goodness.
Because it's a joint appointment, yeah.
We can't just all, okay. Go for it, dude.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that was your motion? You have to make the motion and then say aye.
Well, that was very instructive of you. Thank you. You should make a motion.
We also have to make a motion as a board?
No?
No.
What is the joint appointment?
His motion.
The motion's been made and seconded
Right.
by the
We voted.
joint appointment.
Are we all
It's a joint
together? We're
session.
joined.
It's a joint session.
Oh, okay, so I
Yeah.
swear that's not how we did it before, but okay. My bad.
We can say aye again.
All right. Well then, all in favor? Or aye? Well, the chair says aye, so motion passes. Congratulations,
Thank you
welcome
very
to the
much.
planning board.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I swear that's not how we did it before. Okay.
Thank you, Julie.
Okay, so now we have the public hearing. Do you
Yeah, we're
notice?
5 minutes earlier.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so we still have to wait for 5 minutes to do the public hearing because we can't start early. You can always start late, but you can't start early. Yes?
I can make a speech. You want me to give one too?
Sure.
I'm joking.
Oh, you offer.
Planning board's still up, right? I mean, what would we like to-
Well, if you'd like to say, is there something you'd like to say?
No, Janice, I'm just having fun.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Oh, maybe.
All right, so happy holidays. This is the holiday season. We have numerous holidays. We have Hanukkah, we have Kwanzaa, we have Christmas, we have Festivus. We can't forget Festivus. And I think I've missed one. Has everybody got their Christmas shopping done? Got their holiday plans done?
Madam Chair, if I may, I did come down for the lighting celebration on Saturday.
Yes.
And I do want to say special thanks to everyone all the town employees who participated in that, pulled it together, especially Alan, who did a great job. The meeting room was transformed into a place to sit with Santa, and it was a great night. It was a good-sized crowd. The weather held out, which was nice, and highly recommend everyone come down next year.
How many do you think you got this year?
I would estimate, in terms of the candlelight stroll, probably about 250 folks, something like that.
Very nice.
And I will say, I appreciate folks recognizing me. I think it's just that I have the most high profile out there shooting my mouth off with my candles, but I want to say, I want to thank my colleague, Assistant Town Manager Carly Antonellis. Carly is really the one that's, just the glue for getting that together. And she's the one that reminds me, hey, Alan, it's almost time. You better get your candles and everything together. So
She is the glue.
she is the glue.
She's become an expert electrician on the Rotary as well, so she's done an excellent job.
Getting my journey in his life.
It is noticeable, like when you take a week off or something. It's like everyone's running around like a chicken with their head cut
High
off.
anxiety.
So she is the glue.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan.
Yes, Robert.
Madam Chair, since you have 2.5 minutes, if there isn't objection from the board, I do have one appointment under my
yes.
report.
Sure.
Actually, Robert, they're coming to the
Oh,
meeting.
strike that.
We could do
Never mind.
minutes.
I was just trying to think of something to reduce the time of my
You want to do
report,
the
but
minutes? You can do the minutes. I read them. They look good. They look accurate.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I had edits I forgot to send. I think they'll be okay.
Well, then,
I have too much going on in life right
that was
now.
the last time was November 13th.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 13th, 2018 as submitted in the package.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. All right,
Those are that.
1 minute.
got like 30 seconds.
Do you have the minutes for me to sign, or
I
are
do.
those are later? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we good to go?
I think so.
Okay. The Ayer Board of Selectmen will be conducting a public hearing on Tuesday, December 4th, 2018 at 7:15 p.m. The first floor meeting room at the Ayer Town Hall, 1 Main Street, Ayer, Massachusetts, 01432. Regarding the town's FY 2019 tax classification. At the public hearing, the Board of Assessors will provide all information and data relevant to making a decision on allocating the tax burden, including the fiscal effect on available alternatives.
All right. So do we have the Board of Assessors? Can you come down and join us?
She'll just stay here.
Can you just keep that spot? You can move, Chris. Should have come in here because we haven't had this many bodies in a long
I know.
Sorry I'm late with that.
Tom, do you want to sit
He
here?
could have started 2 minutes earlier and had you guys.
Yeah.
Where you sitting, Ted? I'm next to Susie, I guess.
Do you want to drive the thing?
Yeah, I might need a tutorial.
Just hit this one.
Back and forth.
Yeah, so that's this way.
Mr. Canary?
It's very intuitive and easy.
How are you?
Give it that.
Welcome.
I'm going to turn things over to our assessing administrator, Tom Hogan, immediately. Thomas, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening. Our favorite time of the year.
Yeah, well, not so bad, I guess. Comes quickly, though, that's for sure. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to record your vote, the Selectmen's vote, on 4 property tax classification options, each one having the potential to impact Ayer's fiscal year 2019 tax rates. The 4 options are the open space discount, the residential exemption, the small commercial exemption, and the residential factor. Historically, the town hasn't adopted any of the first 3, but per statute, we're required to advise you of their availability nonetheless, which we will do. The adoption of a residential factor is not optional. You have to vote on a residential factor, which ultimately determines whether you have a single tax rate or a classified tax rate system with a lower residential rate and a higher commercial, industrial, and personal property tax rate. At the conclusion of tonight's hearing, you'll be asked to sign a state form called an LA-5, on which your votes this evening will be recorded. Excuse me. And once that is done, Lisa Gabriel has prepared and uploaded the tax recapitulation information on the DLS gateway. Once we get this LA-5 form signed and uploaded, it sort of initiates the tax rate certification process. So we're kind of in the last stages of the process. Ultimately, we'll get a tax rate certified in time to issue 3rd and 4th quarter tax bills on December 31st of this year. So I know, Madam Chairman, you've heard this spiel a number of times, and Selectman Hood, even though you haven't been a selectman, I know you've heard it quite a few times. So if it pleases the board, I'll try to be brief with the
You
options.
could change up the slides a little bit, rearrange them.
I know. Sometimes I do, and I'll leave one out, and then I get, well, where's that slide? I like that slide. So I guess it all depends on who we have for selectmen. But I'll give you a brief overview of the options, and then we'll move into a more substantive discussion on valuation and tax levies. Just to be clear, the first 3 of these options, actually all 4 of the options do nothing to reduce the property tax levy this year. That's the amount of property taxes that we're going to commit for the 3rd and 4th quarter bill. What they do, they're winners and losers. If one group receives a tax break as a result of the adoption of one of these factors, someone else is going to pay more. So you're not making any decisions relative to the tax levy tonight. It's really apportionment decisions. I've discussed this in the past. The open space discount is option number 1, and it's designed to provide property tax relief to owners of what's defined as open space property. And it does this by creating a third tax rate. We would have a residential tax rate, a commercial, industrial, and personal property tax rate, and a lower than the residential rate open space tax rate. So what happens is the residential taxpayers subsidize open space property owners, and this in turn is supposed to be an incentive for open space property owners to choose not to develop their properties. Land excluded from the open space definition is land taxable under provisions of chapter land. That's Chapter 61 forest land, Chapter 61A agricultural land, and Chapter 61B recreational land. Land under a permanent conservation restriction or a land held for production of income. Every year at tax classification, the selectmen have the option to discount 25% of the open space percentage share of the tax levy. We don't do this in Ayer. We really have no land defined as open space. Under the definition, it would have to be land accessible by everyone in town that is really for a public purpose. Sort of think about a privately owned park or something of that nature, which we don't have. As best I can tell, there's only one community in the Commonwealth with an open space discount, and that is the town of Bedford. So I don't think that's changed. So the Board of Assessors would advise that you not vote to adopt one this evening.
Need a motion? I have no
Discussion?
question. No.
Okay.
No. I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen do not implement the open space discount.
Seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Thank you. Option number 2 is called the residential exemption. And this exemption is designed to provide a measure of tax relief to owner occupants of residential properties by shifting the tax burden to other non-qualifying residential property owners. There are about 14 communities statewide that have adopted this, and it's a lump sum valuation exemption calculated as a percent of the average residential value. And it's applied to every residential property which is the principal or legal residence of a taxpayer, their domicile. And the exemption is subtracted from the assessed valuation of the eligible parcels, and the recipient would be taxable on the net valuation. Just to give you an example, if the average residential value in town was $200,000 and you chose to vote for a 10% residential exemption, then qualifying taxpayers would see their taxable valuations reduced by $20,000. This exemption is popular in resort towns. Nantucket, Tisbury, and Barnstable have adopted residential exemptions. There's a lot of seasonal property owners that the local residents choose to shift the tax burden onto them because of the, obviously, the increased summer costs that the year-round residents absorb. And Boston, Brookline, and Cambridge also have adopted residential exemptions because they have a lot of non-owner occupied residential property, investor-owned property that they're able to shift the tax burden on. And annually at the classification meeting, the selectmen may adopt a discount of up to 35% of the average residential valuation. An application of this exemption will decrease taxes on most, but not all, qualifying properties by shifting the tax burden onto other non-qualifying residential property owners. And it will increase the residential tax rate higher than it otherwise would be. But because in Ayer, most people consider their residence to be their legal domicile, we don't have a lot of seasonal homeowners and not a lot of investor-owned residential property. It's the Board of Assessors would recommend that you choose not to adopt residential exemption this evening.
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
I will make a motion that the Board of Selectmen does not implement the residential exemption.
Seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Motion passes.
Oh, thank you. Option number 3 is called the small commercial exemption, and this is the newest addition to the classification statute. We spent a lot of time on this exemption this year because there was a considerable, I don't want to say interest, but a lot of questions about it at last year's hearing. So the Board of Assessors and myself thought it would be prudent to examine this exemption a little more closely. And there is the other issue that in the town's master plan, there is a reference to the town considering adopting a small commercial exemption to benefit some small businesses. So I'm going to speak a little bit more in depth about this. I consider myself pretty much an expert on it now. But this exemption is designed to provide a measure of tax relief to some small business owners by increasing taxes on other non-qualifying business owners or larger business owners. Qualifying properties will realize a 10% reduction in taxable valuation. But the tax burden is shifted just within the commercial industrial class. It does not affect residential or commercial, or personal property taxpayers. To be eligible for this exemption, a business or property would have to be included on a list provided annually to boards of assessors throughout the Commonwealth by the Division of Labor and Workforce Development. Additionally, qualifying properties must have an assessed valuation of less than $1 million and an average annual employment of 10 or fewer people. The Board of Assessors does have limited authority to add businesses post commitment to the list, but it's limited to businesses that are individuals or sole proprietors or partnerships. And annually at the tax classification hearing, the Selectmen can adopt up to 10% of the value of eligible parcels. And what happens with application of the small commercial exemption is the commercial industrial, it creates a third tax rate. We would have a residential rate, a personal property rate, and a commercial industrial rate that was higher than it otherwise would be if you didn't adopt a small commercial exemption. I actually prepared a slide on the impact this year if we were to apply it. We have 326 commercial and industrial and mixed-use parcels in town. Mixed-use parcels would be eligible for the small commercial exemption on the commercial portion of their assessed valuation. The total number of just commercial parcels is 273. Industrial properties are not eligible for this exemption, even though they have to subsidize the businesses that get it. So you can have a small business and an industrial parcel and not be eligible for this exemption. So it doesn't benefit all small businesses. Jacqueline Guthrie, the assessing department assistant, and I spent quite a bit of time going through the list from DLWD. It's not a list designed for assessment administration. It's a list designed for something else, and we sort of have to match the business with the property, and it can be quite a time-consuming project. And additionally, it probably warrants a field review just to make sure that the businesses that are on the list are still at the particular site. But we were able to narrow it down to 43 properties out of the 326 total commercial, industrial, and mixed-use properties that we would apply it to if we were to commit it for this billing cycle. There's about 104 more that potentially could qualify for this exemption, but aren't on the list. And it seemed to us that the biggest problem was that if you've got a property that's multi-tenant, say you have a store next to a barber shop, and both businesses are not on the list, that property does not qualify for the small commercial exemption. And I think of a lot of the properties that we couldn't qualify were multi-tenant type properties. The total assessed valuation of these 43 properties is a little over $14 million. 10% of that is $1.4 million. So we have an estimated CIP rate of 2880. And if we granted that small commercial exemption to the 43 taxpayers, the commercial industrial rate would increase 15 cents to 28.95 because, again, the other commercial industrial taxpayers are going to subsidize these 43. So the impact on the tax rate estimated to be about 15 cents. So problem, when the Board of Assessors and I discuss this, we always think, well, is the solution to some people's perception that commercial taxes are too high in this town, is the solution to further increase the commercial tax rate to benefit a few at the expense of the many? And we generally come down on the side that it seems to be well-intentioned but flawed option that doesn't really provide broad-based tax relief to businesses in the town of Ayer. There are other issues with it also. What you really want to do is qualify all businesses up front, commit it, and let the amount of the exemption be absorbed in the rate. But where we have 43 properties, we can definitely say qualify, and 104 who we don't know for sure would qualify, we would have to do some post-tax billing outreach because these other properties would have until April 1 believe it or not, there's a special state application for the small commercial exemption, and it basically turns the Board of Assessors into the employment police. It basically states how many businesses are at the site and how many employees they've had from month to month. And the Board of Assessors can grant it after post-commitment. The problem with that is any small commercial exemption that's posted post-commitment is a charge to overlay, the reserve for abatements and exemptions that's raised every year. And the town has not increased overlay to account for the possibility of more exemptions being applied to it. Not that we can't absorb it, we probably could, but the other problem would be is every year we release excess overlay for budget planning purposes, and it would reduce the amount of overlay that we would have available to release in the future. So ideally, if the town were serious about a small commercial exemption, and I'm making no judgment on whether, if the selectmen think it's worthwhile and it's something they'd like to approve for town tax policy, the Board of Assessors is obligated to carry it out. My only point to the selectmen would be, if you're going to do this, I would look at doing it for FY20. And that way there we can get the list in August from DLWD again. We can go through the list. We can do a post-list audit mailing to properties that we think may qualify, and send them the application, and we can qualify as many people up front as possible so that we're not running into that post-commitment issue where we're charging exemptions to the overlay account. So I would be happy to sit on any kind of committee or have any discussions with anybody who would like to discuss this further. But right now, it's a little bit tight. It's funny, these exemptions, they look wonderful, but the implementation can be a little more daunting than you expect. We have to change the format. We would have to change the format of our tax bills. We would have to pay the company to change the program. But not only that, we have to wait on it because I got a call due into our billing contractor tomorrow. Yes, we're doing the small commercial exemption. No, we're not, so that they can, expedite any changes that they need to do for December 1st. But I think if you're going to be serious about this and you're going to do your due diligence, I think the decision to do it should be made post-classification for the next tax year would be my advice.
So based on a comment you just made, that if this was something that the board decided to do, that you would have to, change the format of your tax bills. So there's money spent to change that. Contacting somebody else as to, I forgot who you said.
Yeah, it's significant public outreach. Yeah,
So in a sense, some of these properties might get a small break, where the other properties get a little bit more of a raise, but money is being spent in other ways that could pull money from other projects that the town has that need to be done. Would that be a simple way of?
That would be true, but again, if the selectmen believe it's the right policy for the town, it probably should be done. From our standpoint, I think it's kind of an administrative problem. I would want to basically field review all of these properties, and because I've noticed a couple of these 43 properties that I already have, when I'm driving to work, I'm like, where did that real estate office come from? That wasn't on the list. So that, in addition to the mailing and working with the taxpayer to qualify, I think would be I mean, we could do it. We're a two-person department, but it would certainly add to it'd certainly make us busier around tax billing season. And the other issue with this, I know I've talked at length about this. The other issue with this is there's no guarantee that the tax benefit is going to make it to the small business. If the small businesses are paying the taxes, it'll probably get there. But if the owner or the landlord is paying the taxes, the tax benefit will probably go to the owner, who may or may not. It may or may not trickle down to the businesses. So it's. Like I say, if the town's serious about it, I know the town manager would be happy to appoint me to some sort of study group on this, where we could run the numbers every year and sit down and decide whether this is really the right change in tax policy for the town of Ayer.
Scott?
I think it's worth at least having a conversation in August after you get the list. Before, like for tonight, for FY19, definitely, I think it's too short. And additional 104 properties is worrisome, hitting the overlay, if those are certified, but maybe worth just looking at off season, before we get into the next cycle, just so we're better informed, we can make an accurate decision. And your last comment about that it may not actually get down to the actual business itself is a little worrisome, but I think if we didn't look at it, we wouldn't be doing our jobs. At least get an idea of what would go into the administrative side of it, what the cost would be to reformat the tax bill, and then what the follow-up would be, because the one thing we don't want to create is an administrative nightmare for town hall for a small exemption for a small portion of the commercial base.
And the problem is, it's not like a statutory exemption where a person qualifies. They have to apply the next year, but if they qualify once, they always qualify. We couldn't create a database of qualifying properties, because every year is different. The list becomes a list, and then people would have to apply every year. So you would have to go through the same process in terms of review and mailings and outreach and that type of thing. So, but yeah, I'm. Like I said, I'll be happy to talk about it later on in the year. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, are you gonna Sorry, did I interrupt the motion?
I was gonna say, I think we gotta make a motion.
My board's used to me stepping on their toes. I don't want to step on their toes.
I will make a motion for the Board of Selectmen to not implement the small commercial exemption for FY19.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye?
Chair says aye. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Maybe we could add it to our budget calendar for August
I think that's a great.
next year.
Sounds
That
like a
way
great
they're
idea.
refresher, so we can all take a look.
Sounds like a
We'll
good
put
idea.
that in there for next year.
Thank you, Carly.
Sure.
The remainder of this presentation relates to the residential factor, and it's just information to give you some historical perspective on what selectmen have voted in the past and what's happening in town relative to valuation and tax levy and those type of issues. Every year I provide this slide. Some selectmen seem to like it. It's basically our valuation percentages going back to 2014. And the important thing to look at is it looks like from 2016, 17, 18, and 19, you can see that the residential percentage of the total valuation share in the town of Ayer has been increasing. We've had record growth, record residential construction for us, and consequently the valuation is is changing a little bit, not a lot, but back in 14 we were 64% residential value, 36% CIP, and now we're 67 and 33. So slowly but surely we're becoming more. We're adding more residential value than we are commercial, industrial, or personal, which makes sense. The residential market is in this town is pretty strong, and it looks like it's going to be strong going forward. So this trend, I suspect, will be continuing into the near future anyway. And this is another slide I like to include every year. This is levy percentages. Last year, even though residential values were 66% of the total value of the town, the residential taxpayers assumed only 47% of the tax levy. And conversely, last year, 34% of the total taxable value of the town was CIP, and they assumed 53% of the tax levy. And the reason that occurs is because of our large commercial, industrial, and personal property base, and like 109 other communities in the Commonwealth, has opted to adopt a classified tax rate system where there's a lower residential tax rate for residential property and a higher tax rate for CIP. And if you look at that 2018 column on the chart, 1.54, that's the shift percentage that the town employed last year to determine the levy share. So it's pretty simple. If you take 1.54 and multiply it times 34, you'll get 53% for the new commercial industrial share of the levy. They're picking up 53%. Conversely, the residential share is going to drop. So I made the assumption, the last column is just 2019. And if you adopt a residential factor based upon the same shift percentage as the prior year, residential taxpayers actually pick up a bit more of the tax levy this year because residential values are growing more than CIP values, so the tax is going to naturally shift to residential taxpayers. Classification gives you the option of evening out those tax bill spikes, but as we go forward, you'll see that's probably not necessary this year, but that's where we've been historically. And the selectmen have been you can see the consistency over the years. They've been very judicious in their use of the classification factor over the years. So this is where the Board of Assessors gets involved in the valuation the tax rate calculation with the value people, obviously. And But by statute, valuations have to be at market every year. So these are fiscal 19 valuations. It's a 1/1/18 assessment date by statute. So we're looking at 2017's calendar year, 2017's market data, and adjusting values accordingly. And residential values are really starting to move. Single-family homes are still king, but condos are very hot. Multifamily homes now are moving pretty good. Residential land values are doing well. So we completed the interim year update of assessed valuations. The valuations were certified by the Department of Revenue. And this year, the total taxable valuation of the town is up almost 7% over last year. So, the market is strong. And our primary property type, the single-family home, the average single-family valuation this year is $332,600, up 6.3% from last year. So, again, the market is strong. Values reestablished at market, and the idea is that if everybody is assessed at the same percentage of market value, then the tax levy will be equitably dispersed. So no one will pay more than their fair share of the tax burden. That's the whole idea behind market valuation. I also like to provide a slide on the tax levy. This is determined town meeting votes and I'm sorry. Oh, sure.
No, I have my slides right here. Yep. Thank you.
I'll just walk through this because there's an interesting point I'm supposed to make on one of our forms, but I'm just going to walk through how the FY19 tax levy was established. You start with the FY18 levy limit. That's the maximum amount of property taxes that the town can collect in a given year. It's increased 2.5% under the provisions of Proposition 2.5. The board had $740,000 plus in growth dollars certified by the Department of Revenue this year. So growth continues to be strong in town. And debt exclusions for FY19 of about $1.45 million. So you add all those up and you get your maximum tax levy for the tax year. That's the maximum the town could raise this year if they chose to do so, would be 25.5. Our actual tax levy is a little over $23 million, which means that we now have $2.5 million in excess levy capacity, which is additional levying capacity without having to resort to an override. It's sort of money in the bank. The bond people, the Moody's people look very favorable at this, and it's a real indication of the financial health of the town. I forgot to write it down, but I think it was either FY07 or FY09, probably FY07. I think our excess levy capacity was like $1,207, and today it's $2.5 million, which is kind of extraordinary, and it speaks well of the town and the way the town's been run. Last year's tax levy was almost identical. That was $23.2 million. So the tax levy actually dropped 0.8%. So and a big part of that was that last year's debt exclusions were over $2 million, and this year they're down about $619,000 over last year. So I'll let the town accountant speak to that if she'd like.
Yes.
Madam Chair. So, I'm hearing good news tonight, but I want to caution you that the reason why debt exclusions are down is because we had two reasons. We had four major debt exclusions last year, which we estimated $261,000 for debt service didn't materialize. All but one of the projects is a very slow start, haven't spent any money on. The only debt exclusion that was voted on last year that is complete is the DPW Operations Center. So that's part of the reason, and the other reason is, and after the May 2017 town meeting, when we had estimated debt service on old debt issues, I had refunded, which is basically refinancing, old bond issues, which had a higher interest rate. So we saved about $143,000 on that too. So that will continue to be in place, but I've already adjusted in the future. And I do expect that not only will we have debt service in FY19 on the new debt exclusions, but we also have to consider the high school fields. So this is a one-year present. Don't necessarily expect it next year.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Because you see the room kind of going, oh, okay.
Smiles turn to frowns.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay.
Thanks, Lisa.
Things were going so well.
No, that's fine. I mean, typically, it looks like FY16, the levy increased 3.5, FY17, 3.3. And last year was about 5.6. And if you remember, we had some one-time expenses, snow and ice, a cleanup, and some debt exclusions. So, you know, it's 0.8% is kind of an unusual to see, but I'm not unhappy to see it. So. I always include this slide if this is how a tax rate is calculated. Take the tax levy, divide it by the total taxable valuation of the town, multiply it by 1,000, and if we had one tax rate there, it would be 1870. FY18 single uniform tax rate was $20.13, but what's happened is value has increased almost 7%. The levy went down a little bit. So when you raise value and the levy stays the same, the tax rates will drop. And generally that's what happens when the real estate market gets hot. Tax rates will stop dropping. Still raising probably more revenue, but people like to see falling tax rates. So that's a significant drop in 1 year, but it's unusual to see. Now, if we were a town that had a single tax rate, we'd be all done right now. But you adopt a residential factor of 1, which establishes a uniform tax rate for all properties, but you know, and as a classified tax rate system, so it's a little more complicated. But it's only this year with the levy increase being what it is, it's shifting issues are not a major concern. Just to give you an update, the selectmen last year adopted a residential factor of 0.716706. The residential factor and the shift percentage are, you know, two sides of the same coin. The residential factor is derivative of the shift percentage, and you adopt the residential factor, but you know you can't get away from the shift percentage. But you know, last year 65.6% of the residential valuation, 65.6% of the total valuation was residential valuation. If we had a single tax rate, they would have assumed 65.6% of the levy, but we adopted a residential factor of 0.716706, so they assumed only 47% of the levy, and the resulting tax rate was 1443. And you know, works the other way for commercial. If you take the 34.4 multiply times 1.54, you'll get 53% of the levy and a $31 rate. So that's that was the impact of the votes the selectmen made at last year's public hearings. So it's just good to keep in mind when you reach the last page of my presentation. Our estimated tax rates for FY19. By statute, we can adopt a residential factor based upon a shift percentage of up to 1.75, and that would establish the lowest residential tax rate that Ayer could have per statute. That would be $11.66. Problem with that is residential tax bills go down a lot and commercial industrial bills go up a lot. If you were to adopt the residential factor 1 on the top, we would have that $18.70 rate we talked about. Residential bills would skyrocket, and the commercial industrial people would be very happy. So I highlighted the residential factor based upon last year's shift percentage, based upon valuation in the levy. We didn't see a pressing need to increase the shift on the commercial industrial taxpayers. If you adopt a factor of 0.728773, the resulting rates would be $13.63 for residential taxpayers, $28.80 for CIP taxpayers, and the average residential bill would be increased $20, but that's probably overinflated because the average residential value includes growth valuation, and so that's it's the real number's probably a minus number on that, but the median commercial industrial bill would actually drop 3.6%. We talked about a small commercial exemption to provide tax relief to businesses. By choosing not to increase the shift onto commercial, industrial, and personal property taxpayers, you will provide a measure of tax relief to those taxpayers this year. But you also have the option of adopting a factor at 155, 156, 157. That would sort of balance out those increases, but I would caution the selectmen on doing that, because it looks like residential values are going to continue to outpace appreciation in commercial industrial values. And if you keep moving down that list, and this happened back at the last boom, you'll be at 175 before you know it, and you'll have no place to go, and then you'll be having very large annual residential bill increases that you can do nothing about. So, but again, the decision's entirely up to the Board of Selectmen, and if you have any questions about any of the factors or the impact, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Scott?
Things over there, thank you. I'd be fine keeping out the residential factor as highlighted there, 0.728773.
Yeah, I think makes the most sense.
Very small increase for the residentials, but does give some relief to the commercial, which I know they're usually clamoring for something.
Yep. I agree. I must say, this presentation, maybe I'm just getting used to it, but it just seemed like it was a lot better. Could be me.
And we talked about it prior to the meeting with the board. Yeah, we said it'd be a little more macro. Hopefully it worked out better.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm not sure we'll get a chance to speak before you vote.
Yep. Go ahead.
Tom, Ed Kelly, 21 Cruise Drive. Tom, he stole all my thunder, but the 10-year plan, it did recommend that something be done. That was a problem. It's on page, let's see, what did they say? And I have a couple of things I want to show you too. The Chamber of Commerce did this and it shows the 15 towns in the area. And nobody has a spread like Ayer. We've got the biggest spread in the whole area. And I think it's important for the future there. I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about the future there. That we get this thing a little bit more competitive. I just think we're out of line a little bit as far as all the other towns around. I don't want to be negative about it. I'm trying to be positive about it, and I'm just trying to say that we're getting, give me one good reason why a business that doesn't need water or sewer or rail would want to come to this town.
But yet they do.
Who?
What do you mean, who?
Who has come?
Well,
We just lost the business, right? But I mean,
but that does happen. But also, Wasawa's finally opened up. We've got a produce store coming in. We have, filming going on, which will also elevate the impact and the visibility of Ayer. But this unfortunately, is though it's interesting. What's the population in Westford compared to here? We're a population of less than 10,000. The population of Westford is what? So it almost becomes apples and oranges because there's more people in Westford to even out the tax. And we also discussed how we're going to keep an eye on the small commercial exemption going into next year.
yeah, but that's going to be a lot of work for you. I think it's a lot easier if you would just get the tax rate closer together like some of the other towns.
But that's what we're attempting to do. We do attempt to do that. If you look, you can see the history of where we do try to see that we had that big spread, but then we started bringing it back again.
I agree. I just think we're going at a slower pace. And we got to think about the future, not today. We got to think about the future. And I think we're missing the point if we don't address it and get it closer together. We're just not competitive with any other town when it comes to the commercial rate. Now, for instance, if this baseball field goes and passes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every business in town is going to pay twice what any residential owner is going to pay. And businesses don't send kids to school. We're not.
Well, I don't have kids, but I'm going to pay for the field.
I live in town too, and
approved.
I'm going to pay. But what I'm saying is businesses do not send kids to school. But you want them to pay twice what the resident who sends kids to school, right?
But by that same token, businesses also, even though they may not send someone to school, will often, even if they don't have children, create programs that benefit kids in school. So they'd spend the money on the kids in school anyways. Scott?
Looking at the list here, the one thing that points out, most of the towns with the split tax rate with the exemption of Berlin have a very robust infrastructure, which we do here in town. And the businesses rely on that. The level of services that Ayer provides when it comes to fire and police, I believe are very different than the communities around us when you look at Harvard and Groton and Shirley. So I think that the businesses are getting something in return for the higher tax rate, even though, which I do believe makes Ayer a viable community for a business to come to.
I explained the best I could. I just think for the future there, I think being the only town with that wide of a spread is wrong for the future there. I think we ought to consider trying to get it a little bit closer together. Here's another little interesting tidbit I ran across too. Boy, how many of you realize that something like, what do we have, 4,000 people working in there? Something like that? I may give you the wrong one. I give the one that I wrote. Did you add up the?
Okay, so what are you trying to say with this again?
Well, you see that there's 4,000 people coming to town to get a job, and there's almost 4,000 people living in town that leave to get a job.
Well, that would depend on the job, too. I mean,
Yeah, but doesn't,
if Fort Devens still existed, I might work on Fort Devens instead of over at Hanscom because I've been part of government.
right, but what I'm saying is...
And I would love to have worked in Fort Devens because my commute would be so much better.
Well, so would everybody else, but what I'm trying to say is, if this isn't the definition of bedroom community, I don't know what it is. But it's 4,000 people coming from the west, coming to Ayer. 4,000 people are leaving, going to Boston or Worcester because it's a higher priced job, getting more jobs.
It's also a different type of job because of the type of buildings that we do have here in Ayer. It tends to be more industrial manufacturing, but the people who live in Ayer tend to be, honestly, probably a little more white collar than they used to be 20 years ago. You know, I commute down to Marlboro for my job, and I've commuted into Burlington, I've commuted into Chelmsford and Billerica over my career, and it's because of the type of job I do, being in finance, doesn't necessarily exist here, but it does exist in other communities. So it's not necessarily the tax rate that's driving that, it's just the types of businesses that we do have in our community.
But I think the tax rate is driving people that come here and build their houses here and live here.
I agree with you on that.
I mean, if you look at all the beautiful homes up on Peter Hill and all that, I mean, they're coming here to live, but they're not coming here to work.
They are spending their money here. I mean, well, it goes downtown.
No, they're paying their taxes here, that's about it, but they're not paid as much as they should be paid.
Touche.
But you know, the irony is of this little diagram is, you know, you got like the 4,000 coming in. How many of them live in Shirley? Why aren't they working in Shirley? So I bet if we were to look at each town in a similar diagram, we're gonna find different numbers, but a similar thing, and that's always. I mean, I personally have very rarely worked in the exact town that I lived in. The nature of my work. Okay, so it can be twisted. It's like statistics. You can turn it upside down. But I think we do try to be very fair to keep everything as close together, but we're never going to get it perfectly even. It'd be ideal.
No, I don't expect that either. I just think we're too far apart. I think you've got to come closer together to make it more competitive so you're equal with other towns. I just see Main Street dying, I really do.
You see Main Street dying? I see Main Street thriving. I can't even get downtown at night because it's so crowded.
Okay, you said the key word, at night. But you can drive down in the daytime and you can't find a car parked on Main Street. There's no daytime business left on Main Street. Am I right?
I don't know what to tell you about that one.
No, you have a good point. Because it goes back to, this conversation came up when we were looking at American Superconductor, because one of the points that was brought up is that when you have people who work in like manufacturing and industrial job, they don't have like an hour lunch where they can peruse throughout the town and do their shopping. And that's one of the reasons why, like, I was supportive of American Superconductor coming, because I was we're hoping to get more of those types of businesses in town so that the daytime economy can start picking up.
No, I agree with you also. I think that was a good move. But there again, to get those big companies, we have to give them tips, right? We have to give
Unfortunately,
them
Unfortunately, that's across the country.
I agree. But in the meantime, all the businesses on Main Street, they're still getting it. They're still paying. You're asking me to pay twice as much as for my building on Main Street as you do on my house to support the businesses, support the taxes. We're still paying, and the businesses are still paying more than 50%, right? Businesses still pay more than 50% of the tax. And that's the little businesses. It's the little businesses I think you're killing. I mean, the Pepsis, I have no concern for, because it's ironic. Somebody said the other day, we can't water our lawns only every other day. But yeah, Pepsi can pump water out of our aquifer 24/7 and sell it.
Well, I mean, as it's stated, it does make a mention in the master plan that, we would consider the adoption of like the small business exemption, which we are going to be looking into more, because I don't know if you were in the room when we were discussing it.
Yes, it was.
But one of the questions, for example, is you just mentioned, you own the buildings that, a business is in, So if you're the property owner, is that business gonna benefit from that exemption, or will it be you? And will you be passing that on?
Well, it's gonna benefit in the fact that I don't have to go up on his rent, or her rent. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to go up on their rent. If my taxes keep going up on that building, I have no other choice. If I lose one of the tenants, I've gotta pay out of my personal pocket to keep the damn building alive.
So if there was the small commercial exemption, are you saying that because your taxes would, have the discount and whatnot, are you going to then pass it on to your tenant?
I don't know if I pass it on. It depends on what rate, or whether I'm breaking even or not. I gotta break even. If I'm losing money, I gotta pass it on.
Right. No, this is fair discussion, yeah.
I'm not out to look to make.
No, your answer was, I think, perfectly fair.
Yeah. But look, I think everybody here wants what's best in the town of Ayer. I think what's missing is the one word, and that's future. The future of Ayer. Thank you very much for listening to me.
So I know one of the things that we've talked about with buy board is the need for a viable five-year budget plan, and then the revenue definitely goes in there, and the tax rate and everything. So perhaps we can take a look over the summer at the future and what the impacts will be going forward with shifts in the tax rate with the split. It'd be worthwhile, and we can look at the small commercial tax, see what our options are. I think that would be a good plan going forward.
I think it's an excellent plan. I mean, everything should always be looked at deeper and deeper as much as possible, So what are we gonna do?
As I said before, I'm comfortable with the residential factor of 0.72873, and it's highlighted in the presentation.
Okay. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Yep.
And we will continue to look into this for the future.
And I also think one of the other questions is what other services we could provide to the commercial community that perhaps we're not, since they are taxpayers and part of our customer base, if you will. Here you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. This public hearing is closed.
I have that there, that.
That's great.
All right. So now we have the multifamily affordable housing proposal request for an LIP endorsement for 0 Washington Street. Attorney Adam Costa. Come on.
You're okay?
Did you lose a chair?
We're not taking any more visitors.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. You're gonna have to stand for your presentation. We're done.
Crouch. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. As you said, I'm Adam Costa. I'm with the firm of Mead, Tallerman and Costa. And I'm before you this evening, and I appreciate you adding me to the agenda, just for an informal presentation on a potential local initiative program project that I wanted to bring to the Selectmen for your consideration. So my client is an entity by the name of Ayer Solar 2 LLC. You might be familiar with the name Air Solar 1 is a project that was built, a solar project that was built a number of years ago. Air Solar 2 is a project that was proposed on nearby or adjacent land, a project that came before your planning board and actually made its way to your zoning board and then back to your planning board about a year to a year and a half ago, and ultimately received site plan approval from the planning board. But right around that time, the town opted to adopt solar zoning in Ayer, and so as a consequence, there was a what's called an approval not required, an A&R plan that was recorded to freeze the zoning, as developers often do, since the project had been fully permitted but hadn't received a building permit yet. And the expectation then was that notwithstanding the zoning, the project would proceed sometime in 2018. What we didn't expect is that we'd be faced with an appeal from certain neighbors who believe that they will be affected by the project. And so we've spent the last, I guess, 8 to 9 months now in litigation, and as is the case with any sort of litigation, we expect it'll be a long road to hoe in terms of fighting our way through the Superior Court, attempting to defend our right to develop the property. Meanwhile, we've looked at some other opportunities that the site might present as an alternative to a solar facility. And one thing that we've considered, in fact, we had considered it, I've already gotten some feedback that, well, this is the stick that you're using. If we can't do solar, we're going to do something more intense, like a residential development. This is actually something that we had contemplated, and I had discussed with my client, and we had discussed with my client's engineer over a year and a half ago, when solar project was first brought forward to the town. And so when we were faced with the litigation, given that this is something that wouldn't be dependent upon the zoning freeze, we sort of went back and took a second look at it. And so that's what we're presenting to you tonight. It's a proposal for a series of townhomes on the same property that is the site of the solar facility that we have permitted through your planning board. The local initiative program, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. I know you've had a number of 40Bs in town over the years, but local initiative program projects are specific types of 40Bs. So a 40B can generally take one of two paths. It can take the more traditional path, which is a developer goes first to a subsidy. There are a number of different subsidies through the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, these sort of quasi-public agencies like Mass Housing or Mass Housing Partnership Fund. And they review a project, they assess the financials, they review the overall plans for the project, and they determine whether it's something that they believe they can subsidize. If they do, they issue an eligibility letter, which then gives the developer the ability to go to the municipality zoning board of appeals and go through the comprehensive permitting process for the project. The alternative to that is what is often referred to casually as a friendly 40B. And that's because it tends to be a friendlier process, as opposed to going first to the subsidy and then surprising the municipality with an application to its zoning board of appeals. A friendly 40B first is presented in a form like this to the chief executive officials of the town, a mayor in a city, or the board of selectmen in a town, and the request is made for an endorsement by the board of selectmen. Obviously, most boards of selectmen don't simply say, where do we sign? They want to know a lot more about the project. They want to talk about their concerns with the project, if they have any, and they want to work with the applicant to try and work out anything that they view as a kink in the project to end up with a better finished product, even before it goes through the official permitting process. And so that's what we're presenting here. That's why we're before you in an informal capacity, just to talk generally about the plans that we've got, talk about that LIP process, and see if the board is at all interested in potentially endorsing a project, understanding that this is only the first step in a multi-step process, and certainly the first of what I would expect would be multiple meetings before your board to try and address any concerns that you might have. Cal Goldsmith is here tonight. He's the project engineer. He was also involved in the solar project. I'd like him just briefly to have an opportunity to address what you've got on your screen and also what's on the easel here, which is the concept plan. It is nothing more than a concept plan at this early stage, but he can speak specifically to what is being proposed at that conceptual stage.
Thank you, Adam. Good evening. The project we're talking about is on Washington Street, just south of Madigan Lane before you go around the bend, past Madigan Lane up to the hospital on your left. And to the Autumn Ridge subdivision that's on your right across from the hospital. So this is just right at that bend. It's a difficult piece of property. The property that there's actually 3 parcels of land. You can see if I can walk up here. Go ahead. So there's 3 parcels of land designated by these lines across here. These 2 parcels were acquired. This parcel was owned already, and the land, you can see the driveway coming in. It's a long driveway. It's a difficult intersection. at there because of the steep slope dropping away from the roadway, right where the driveway ties into the road. We did have to engineer that driveway along with stormwater management in order to make that work for the solar project. We did find a way to do that, and we were able to get it permitted both through the planning board, but also through the Conservation Commission. So we know that we can do it again. It's basically going to be the same design. The road, the intersection at Washington Street has good sight distance in each direction. The roadway coming in would be about an 8% slope down to a low point where you can see the crossing. There's like a culvert under the road, and it rises up slightly and then dips and rises up slightly again to the end. But it's a difficult construction, expensive construction to get the driveway in, and the cost of the construction is what's driving a lot of the size of this project and the solar project itself. In order to fund that kind of construction, the project had to be a sizable project. You wouldn't be able to do it for 4 or 5 houses. It just wouldn't. It would cost way too much to be able to get in there. So this was really the only way to make this property owned by our client feasible in order to get the project to fly. And the 40B lends itself to the kind of density that we need to be able to do this. As you can see, there are units here. They back up against, there's a wetland line running in through here. That's the red line coming through. So we have backyards facing down into the wetland. These are power lines running through the area. This is all wetland in here as well. This is all upland. The rail trail runs right along here. This line coming through here is the town sewer easement where the sewer runs. And we bring a driveway in, circle it around as we've shown, and we put townhouses off the driveway and off the center green area for the project itself. Drainage would be handled by each of the blue areas. Those are, and at this point it's all conceptual. I mean, we haven't engineered this portion of it. This is presented with any 40B at this stage of the game. It's presented conceptually to show that it could be done, that it's something that we feel comfortable could be engineered, and we know that we could solve all the engineering problems, but we haven't gone about and done it yet because we're not at that stage of the project. So as I said, it's a conceptual plan. The blue areas would be stormwater management areas. They wouldn't necessarily be ponds or standing water. Most likely they'd just be green wetland areas that would be capable of handling and treating stormwater. As you can see, there's a lot of green space, there's a lot of open space on the green part of the land that we'd be using. The entire project, the entire property actually comes down off the screen and up in here. It's a much larger, the 3 parcels are actually much larger than what we're showing you just on the screen here, but this is the only portion of the property really that we'd be able to use. It's a 55-unit project. The driveway coming in would be sufficient to serve all 55 units. That would have to be engineered that way, and we feel comfortable we'd be able to do that. As I said, we've permitted through the conservation and through the planning board once already.
So if I could add a couple of points to what Cal has said. So the density sounds like a lot. I understand it's a big number. Generally, density is determined certainly by the subsidizing agencies when they determine what is appropriate, and therefore by developers when they're structuring a project based upon the overall size of the parcel or parcels in question. In this case, we've got a parcel that is partly wetland and not usable. There's a portion of the parcel, of course, that is traversed by the utility easement, and that's not really usable either, at least not for purposes of these sorts of improvement. And then we've got areas that are either within buffers or that we're trying to maintain as green space, either because they're too difficult to develop or because we would be unable to develop them. So in all, the property in question is 49.79 acres. That's referenced in the correspondence that I submitted. So, if you divide the total number of units into the total number of acres, the density is quite small. We recognize, of course, that we're developing a much smaller portion of the overall site, but the remainder of the site is land that would not be developed and could be restricted as such as part of a permit approval. 40B projects, as you probably know, whether they are friendlies or unfriendlies, are required to, in part, provide for affordable housing. The minimum percentage required by all the subsidizing agencies is 25%. So the proposal would be for 25% of these units, or 14 units, you have to round up. 14 units would be designated as affordable. We'd be willing to designate those as affordable in perpetuity, which is frankly what most municipalities require anyway. The state standard is 30 years, but most towns don't want to see them ever drop off the inventory of subsidized housing. So we'd be willing to dedicate those as affordable units in perpetuity. And the price point for those units is determined by the state based upon area median incomes and a formula that they utilize to ensure that individuals that are making between 70 and 80% of the area median income could afford to reside in one of these townhomes. We foresee a mix of bedroom counts. Again, we're at the conceptual stage now, so we haven't gotten into too much detail with respect to whether these would be 2s or 3s, or whether we'd mix in some 1s or mix in some 4s. Generally with townhouses, what I've seen in other communities, I tend to do more work in the municipal side, much more than I do on the private side, and applicants that have come before the boards that I represent are mostly proposing 2 and 3 bedroom townhouses. There's an occasional 4. There's a new guideline adopted by DHCD about 2 to 3 years ago that mandates that there be at least 10% of the units in a project that are 3 bedrooms to provide for family housing, because frankly, municipalities were limiting these to 1 and 2 bedrooms to try to avoid impacts to their schools and limit the number of children, and DHCD stepped in and said that they couldn't do that. So we're obligated to provide at least 10% 3 bedroom units. Again, what drove this was just the reality of trying to recoup some investment in the property. We've heard the feedback. We heard it when we were before the planning board for the solar project, feedback from neighbors and abutters and other parties who expressed some interest in the project. They were concerned about sort of the non-residential nature of a solar facility. I can appreciate that. I don't view solar facilities as non-residential. The legislature, frankly, doesn't view them that way, but I appreciate that owners of single-family homes might. And so we heard a lot of feedback during that process. We've heard feedback in the course of litigation, abutters and neighbors who have referred to the power plant that we're proposing. And so we thought that this is, less of a power plant and more of a residential development that is more in keeping with the nature of a residential neighborhood. So that's what drove us to sort of take a second look at something that we had looked at very early on in the process. So what we're asking tonight is certainly not, and Carly was nice enough to add us to the agenda, but also to tell me not to expect a vote. I certainly wouldn't have expected a vote, but our goal was to at least initiate the dialogue, get some feedback from you as to whether this is something that you're interested in continuing a dialogue on. If the answer is no, we appreciate that. I'll take that back to my client. He's got the option of just continuing to fight the fight with respect to the solar project. He also has the option of taking this plan and this project to a subsidy and going the more traditional 40B route. Again, there's no obligation to propose a LIP, but I generally recommend it to my private clients because, having seen it from the other side of the table, I think that you get a much better project when you're working in conjunction with and cooperating with the Board of Selectmen early on in the process than you do when you just show up at the doorstep of the ZBA with a project that you propose. So that's what brought us here. We're certainly happy to answer questions that you've got if you've got any, and we'll look forward to continuing the dialogue with you if, in fact, you're interested. And again, thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you.
So to make sure I understood, this would be to replace the solar.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Because of concerns over that, and then so you're just bringing this in as an idea for the future.
Right.
Okay. I don't know if you happen to look at our packet, because it's online. I know that the access road, that's caused a problem. So if, and I'm not saying I'm endorsing or not endorsing, I'm saying that if this, or quite honestly any project that's going to go forward, I would want to ensure that you were going to be working with our DPW superintendent and our fire chief and the Board of Health and all necessary departments to make sure that there are no loose ends?
Sure. So certainly we would. I will say that we have already worked with those departments in the context of the solar project. Obviously, a roadway that is servicing a solar project is somewhat different than a roadway that's servicing 55 residential units. So we recognize that. But there are minimum requirements we have to meet under the fire code, which were in fact enhanced about a year and a half ago when they revised the fire code, particularly for these sort of dead-end roads. Although they connect, there's one way in and one way out. You need a certain minimum width. You need to provide for a certain quality of construction to ensure that emergency vehicles can be supported and can access and can traverse the site in the event of a fire or other emergency. So certainly we believe we've designed it even in the at the conceptual stage to meet those requirements, but there'd be a lot more work to be done, and we'd be open to beginning that process either as part of the LIP before we go to the subsidizing agency, and certainly we'd be required to go through that process as part of the ZBA permitting if we get that far.
Question, how many acres is the green portion? So you mentioned there was 49.79 on the total parcels of land. How many acreage is that?
Yeah, I was looking at that myself, but we don't show it on our plan. I want to say it's like 12 acres. I think that where the bulk of the units on that parcel in there is, that area right around the bulk of those units is probably 4 or 5 acres. So I think it's about right, about 12 acres for the green area.
Okay. I agree with. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I agree with the chair that what we have in our packet are some concerns with some of our department heads, and those absolutely need to be addressed and discussed before any further action is taken.
Right. So, like I said, this has brought some information to us. So at least we're part of whatever conversation ends up going forward. And as stated, we're certainly not ready to make any type of decision because we got to even absorb what you said.
Sure.
So I don't. Do you have anything else? I mean,
no. It's a
yes,
lot to
Robert.
take in.
Madam Chair, through you to Attorney Costa, we'll make sure that you have, in preparation for this meeting, we had departments do just an initial quick review. As you're familiar with, if this is to move forward, there's a more formal review process,
Right.
as well as a memo that was prepared that the BOS have. It's in the packet as well from the Director of Community and Economic Development with some thoughts on the whole townhouse thing.
Okay.
That being said, I think that, and I understand it's conceptual, some of the fundamental concerns, Mr. Goldstein has spoken to this, is the construction of that driveway. There remains even initial concerns on the geometry and so forth from the DPW. Obviously, the turning radiuses and so forth for emergency vehicles. Also, there are traffic impact to that intersection with 55, let's just conceptually, 55 units here. There are issues with that intersection. And also, one of the things that came up in just initial review is also consideration of some type of vegetative screening or so forth between the abutters and the proposed. And again, as the selectman said, I'm not taking a position either way, but the reality is there are a bunch of individuals' property and backyards along that.
And through you, Madam Chair, thank you for that. Certainly, we made reference even in our narrative submittal to the recognition that there are immediate abutters who own single-family homes, and much like they will be affected by a solar project, there will be some effect by a residential project of this sort. And so we recognize that. We acknowledge that there is some green space behind those units, but we also committed to a landscaping plan, which would be required as part of the permitting process anyway. At the conceptual stage, we didn't show anything, but we recognize the need for that, and maybe even the need for some vegetative screening along the roadway itself. So we're certainly open to that discussion, and we recognize the impact of this number of units on the site, the off-site impacts to the roadway, And we're happy to sort of work with your departments to try and address their concerns. The challenge with this site is that it's difficult to envision how it'll all work if you're out there and you're standing on Washington Street and you're looking into the site. I've walked it, and it's straight down from the roadway, and then it sort of levels out. But the terrain is difficult. It's going to be a fairly significant cut and fill operation to get that to be flat, to get a roadway in there, which makes it challenging. It can be done. I've seen it done on more challenging sites, but to walk out there today and to look at it, it's sort of hard to envision how it can all work. So we'll have to work with your departments to be sure that their concerns are addressed, and we're certainly happy to do that in the coming weeks, and hopefully get back onto your agenda with your permission once we feel we've had an opportunity to meet with some of those staff members, some of those department heads, and get some feedback from them and try to make some revisions to the plan to address their concerns.
Lastly, through the chair, and in no way am I speaking for the Conservation Commission or the Planning Board. I don't have that authority, but
sure.
What I do know in the initial discussions of the review, and as you communicate to your client costs, I can only imagine the engineering costs on the driveway. But in cutting to the chase, it's pretty given that the Conservation Commission and Planning Board are going to want to exercise through the consultant bylaw a comprehensive traffic impact study for the intersection, and the Conservation Commission most likely on the whole wetlands piece, and maybe also the stormwater. Just looking from 50,000 foot, I mean, those are added costs.
Yeah, if I may,
Yes.
we fully expect that, and we in fact went through that same type of review for the solar project when we put the driveway in. For that, they had the Conservation Commission hired a consultant to review, looked at habitat value of the property that we were running the driveway through, as well as stormwater management review. So we fully expected we would be doing that.
The comprehensive permit process before the ZBA, among all the various permits that a ZBA issues, variances, special permits, is by far truly the most comprehensive, in the sense that very few boards will review these types of projects without a consultant team, which of course is paid for by the applicant. Frankly, it's part of what drives up the density of some of these projects, is the reality that you have to fund the development of the site as well as the permitting costs associated with it. This is a challenging site, but we know that we need to satisfy not only the financial component of it, knowing that we can get it done and knowing that a subsidizing agency will subsidize it, but that we also need to satisfy the concerns of the town. And so we're prepared to go through that process for sure.
Nothing else from me, thank you.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, and just so you know, the packet, you can check it even on our website to be able to see the comments.
I will certainly do that. Great.
Okay.
I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Robert.
Madam Chair, is there any public?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question? I mean, it was, no, because it wasn't a public hearing or anything. It was just, he was just bringing us information, no vote. So.
Madam Chair, members of the Board of Selectmen, under the administrative update, in the interest of time, the major focus obviously remains the preparation of the FY 2020 budget. All initial budgets from all departments are due December 14th. All of the capital budgets have been submitted. The Capital Planning Committee will be meeting tomorrow as their first meeting to start that capital process. So again, the primary focus since the board last met on November the 13th remains with the budget. Additionally, as the board is aware, in the packet are all of the warrants that were reviewed and approved since the board last met on November the 13th. The first action item in the packet is an appointment to the Recycling Committee, and I'm respectfully recommending that the BOS appoint Ms. Rebecca Jones of Ayer to an unexpired 3-year term on the Air Recycling Committee, which will expire on June 30th of 2020. And I believe that...
Lori wants to...
Yes, Lori is here, and I think Ms. Jones is here as well. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
sit with the grown-ups. Thanks for seeing us tonight.
Not a problem.
Rebecca has shown a lot of interest in becoming a member of the committee. I think you probably have her letter. And I am thrilled that she is interested in serving.
Are you aware of how hard she'll work you?
I work to recycle your reusables day, so.
Yes.
So you are excellent.
Well, I think this is great. You know, we love new faces. I love the fact that we can get into new faces. This is nice. Is there anything you'd like to introduce yourself, say?
Well, I guess I can say one of my qualifications, according to my daughter, is she calls her father and I a couple of aging hippies. We've just been very environmentally aware and just keep trying to learn and grow with that, and to kind of do our part, help the town, help educate other people, so.
Sounds wonderful.
Something we've always been involved in, and talk the talk, walk the walk.
Yeah. Well, the good news is I think that the phrase hippie is going to make a comeback, you know, so you'll be trendy again.
Yes.
Do you have any questions? Or?
No questions, but I will just say thank you very much for stepping forward and volunteering. It's always great to have people fill these positions that on some committees can stay vacant for years. So thank you.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I'll make a motion to appoint Rebecca Jones to the Air Recycling Committee for a term expiring 6/30/2020.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Put her to work.
Could I have 30 more seconds of
Yes,
your
you
time?
may. I might give you 45.
Okay, just today, I attended the annual meeting of the Central Mass Recycling Council, and the town of Ayer received an award, as we have for the past several years, for earning 13 or more recycling dividends program points. This is a Mass DEP grant program that gives us cash to spend on very specific kinds of things. This year we received 17 points for doing things like having a pay-as-you-throw program, giving residents the opportunity to attend hazardous waste collection days, outreach and education, and various other criteria that we have achieved. So I was happy to get that, and to know that that will put some thousands of dollars into our coffers, if we have coffers. I don't know. Do we have a coffer?
You have a coffer.
Okay. A singular coffer, not coffers. So wanted to let you know about that.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful news.
Thank
you
you.
for bringing that and telling us.
Thanks.
Oh, well, great. So maybe next year it'll be 18 points.
We'll try.
We'll try.
We have a few ideas.
Oh, yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Don't give her ideas. She will run with it, which is awesome.
We try.
So, all right. Well, thank
Thanks.
you.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next item are two quit claim deeds for the Ridgeview Heights project. The first quit claim deed actually was approved by town meeting by Article 30 of the May 14th, 2012 annual town meeting, and this was the parcel that the water tower was constructed on. It was not, though town meeting approved it.
The Willows?
Pardon?
The Willows? Is that the Willows?
No,
What?
over
Pingree.
Pingree.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting my water towers confused.
So, though town meeting had approved it, the water tower has been constructed, there was some final lot configuration work that needed to be finalized for it to be recorded. So the first one, again, is, in essence, is what was approved by town meeting on May 14th, 2012. The deed has been prepared by town council, and we're recommending BOS approval for that one. The second one, which the board is probably more familiar with, was the one from the October 22nd town meeting on that parcel that reconfigures the parcel for the public access off of,
I have that, is it?
yes,
Hemlock?
that parcel I off of Hemlock. That was at the town meeting just approved. Yeah, for the access. So, we're respectfully recommending that the BOS approve both of the quitclaim deeds for the Ridgeview Heights for signature by the board.
No questions. I'll make a motion to accept the quitclaim deeds as presented to the Board of Selectmen. Is that adequate enough? Do you need more detail?
That's good.
That's good, okay.
Seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. All right.
Great, thank you. The next item is the 2019 Board of Selectmen issued license renewals, as the board does every year. I want to publicly thank Ms. Antonellis for organizing all of the license renewals. She always does an excellent job, and also in interfacing with all of our businesses to make sure that they have all of their paperwork, fees, and so forth. For the record, Madam Chair, per the Board of Selectmen, if after the board approves these license renewals, as been standard practice, your office, we will not release any of these licenses that have outstanding taxes or water and sewer outstanding unless that's current or in an approved payment plan by the town treasurer. Businesses have until December 28th, I think it is this year, and if they're not resolved, we won't release them until they are, as we've done in the past.
What day does December 28th fall on?
A Friday.
Friday.
Okay, so it's December 28th, Friday, close of business at Town Hall,
I
right?
said 11:30 in all the
Okay.
correspondence.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Give a little wiggle though.
so now the heat coming?
No, I just texted him because it was cold.
I know, I have to put on my gloves. Okay.
And then, as you can see, again, Ms. Antonellis, the database, or the spreadsheet here is well organized and quite detailed. The only one, as you can see indicated on the last page, is obviously the Mango Grill is not going to be renewing for this year. But it is our recommendation that the board consider voting to approve the 2019 license renewals as set forth by the November 30th memo from the Assistant Town Manager.
I just want to point out just one small little typo in the packet. It says the 2017 license renewals, so it's just a save as problem. You know, the format's there. It should actually said 2018. So I just want everyone to know it's the 2018 we're getting approved. 2019 we're getting approved. All right. Do you want us to do it separately under the class? Do you want us to do just as submitted in the packet? How do you guys want us to do this?
I think the issue of expediting, unless there's specific questions, a motion to approve as set forth in the November 30th memo. We've done that before.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the 2019 license renewals as presented in the packet.
Seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye, and it's approved.
Okay, thank you to the board, and thank you, Carly.
Yes, thank you, Carly. I remember when I first got here, it was a little painful.
For the next item, Madam Chair, members of the board, if there is an objection, I'd ask Mr. Manoy and Mr. Archambault to join me at the table, the Director of Economic and Community Development and the Town Planner. Gentlemen. And you have, we wanted to discuss with the board some important zoning matters that are before the town, and how, I'm looking for direction from the board as to how we're going to accomplish this. And in a nutshell, and I know each of these gentlemen, I can offer some brief more specific brief points. But as we sit here on December the 4th, the following zoning matters remain to be, I'm going to say, resolved, and all of them will require action by town meeting. And all of them, in my opinion, these are the experts, but all of them are going to require sufficient, and some of this has been happening, but sufficient public outreach and education, but are going to require presentations at town meeting, and inevitably are going to have a lot of questions from town meeting attendees. The three areas that we're going to talk about is the recreational marijuana zoning. As the board is aware, the town meeting, and through the board's leadership, has set the license at 1 for retail. However, and Mr. Archambault's memo, just from a 50,000-foot view, and he'll just touch upon, as a town, there's all of these other categories that we need to address the issue of zoning for recreational marijuana. We continue to get multiple calls per week. So there's the issue of the zoning bylaw as it pertains to recreational marijuana. We need to do something in 2019 so that we have the best zoning in terms of the town to protect the town's interests, but also, as Alan can speak to, also what makes the best sense in terms of economic development and so forth. Inevitably, as this board knows, people get very passionate about this issue, and so this is a big one that town meeting needs to consider. The second one, as the board is familiar with, is the form-based code, specifically for Park Street. We've talked about it. Mr. Minoyan has done quite a bit of preliminary work on that, but the implementation of that form-based code on Park Street is time-sensitive in the sense that as the MART project moves forward, as there are traffic issues, as in terms of economic development, aesthetics, again, Alan can speak much more eloquent to it than I, but we would like to, it's in the master plan, it is a commitment to one of our gateways of the town. That's going to require action by town meeting. The third one, which we are pretty confident, but I want to mention that we will definitely address for the fall of 2019, is one of the goals in the master plan and one of the actual goals of the town planner is the Petapawag district, which he can speak to briefly. An important zoning that it has been identified by the master plan as a goal, again, will require action by town meeting. So why are we here? Here's the challenge. Without question, right now, the annual town meeting will have at least 30 articles related to the budget and so forth. We have, as we know, town meeting, if you just put these things on the end, tack them on the end of town meeting, our track record for success in the past has not been the greatest. People by then are tired or it goes to a second night. The board, as I know, is aware of those concerns. The issue is that how do we, with just the annual town meeting and the fall town meeting, make progress on these fronts? And specifically, the clock on the marijuana and on the form-based is more time-sensitive than the third one I mentioned. So the other thing is, and these gentlemen are well aware of this, as am I from this board, we obviously, town meeting needs to be a success, and we just need to run these things up the flagpole, that if we were to consider, emphasis on if, to consider a special town meeting dedicated to these, it would be predicated on everything being teed up before then. But I felt that we should discuss with the board that we have these three major things that are important to the town that are going to require citizen involvement at town meeting, how do we schedule and structure and organize that? And something not related to tonight, but this board is aware of, is we also have our friends at Mass Development looking somewhere in the near future at a super town meeting for the Vicksburg Square zoning, but we don't have all of that information yet. So very briefly, through the chair,
I'm out of town in 2019.
emphasis on briefly, I'd just like Mr. Archambault to just briefly give a thumbnail sketch of the recreational marijuana issue and his proposal, and then Mr. Minoyan on the form-based code.
Thank you, Robert, Madam Chair, and members of the board. Robert asked me to outline the process to develop a bylaw that would address the various types of recreational marijuana businesses that have been looking actually already to site in the town. In addition to the obvious retail operations that everybody is familiar with and that are slowly being rolled out at the state level, the town is fielding calls for, the siting of growing facilities or cultivation facilities, processing and product facilities, testing laboratories, transportation uses, that transports the product between all the various types of uses. And so it's a pretty wide field of issues to consider in developing a comprehensive bylaw that addresses this new field. So what I propose is a process that would get us to a spring town meeting vote. I believe it's ambitious. I've already started on the project by collecting a model bylaw from the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. That's the PVPC at the top there, as well as the towns that you see listed, have all adopted this sort of zoning before the town of Ayer. So those bylaws that I've collected, I believe, would serve as good models for a committee that I'm proposing, which is step number 3, which would be a recreational marijuana bylaw working group. I believe that this issue is too large to just confine to the planning board and, the usual type of planning bylaw effort. I believe that starting in early January, we need to convene a group that would meet during the day, consisting of representatives of the town management staff, myself, the economic development director, the building commissioner, the police department, fire department, DPW, Board of Health, school district. The more the merrier, to consider all of the issues that would go into drafting a successful bylaw that the town, that would benefit the town. So I'm proposing that we put our minds together and address step 3 before Christmas so that we can, start running in early January. Then over the next few months, I would prepare with the group a draft bylaw. We're aiming for Valentine's Day. And after that, there would be, of course, a legal review to make sure that it is in conformance with the Cannabis Control Commission and all aspects of state law. I also envision several public information meetings before we go to the formal public hearings. And the planning board public hearing on this would be probably in early March. And again, it would be before the warrant for the town meeting would be set. And there may be an opportunity to have a second town meeting, a second planning board hearing if we need to, based on the feedback we received at the first one. But basically, that's the process. We're looking to do this fairly quickly. But I think that, given the fact that we have some models and actual bylaws to work off of. A year ago, they did not exist. So, we have some tools to work from. So that is how I propose to, organize and coordinate this effort.
So on an ambitious, if all goes as planned, that would, let's say for the sake of discussion, have this completely teed up, as it has to be, before the Board of Selectmen and let's say for the spring. So then the consideration is at the annual town meeting, and I still struggle with this in the sense that do we, assuming everything was to be ready to go, do we incorporate this as part of the annual town meeting? And I do agree with Selectman Livingston's body language that I think it is a prescription for failure. So we'll circle back, that's just on this, through the chair, and then why don't we have just Mr. Minoyan outline the form-based code issue?
Thank you. I'm sorry, one quick question. Do you need a motion to create the bylaw working group from the Board of Selectmen, or is that something you can just do on?
We were gonna do the working group at the administrative level.
Okay.
Of course,
No,
the
that's fine.
planning board will be discussing it in the public
Okay.
forum, as will the Board of Selectmen, as Mark and I have discussed, because I know the board has a lot of interest in this, as does the planning board, but I think the working group will largely be on the staff level.
That's fine, I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Okay.
And you don't have the slide, right? Just the-
Amazingly, tonight I don't have
Oh,
anything
okay.
visual.
So,
Not that I was excited about you not having one or not.
Just a surprise, everybody. Okay. Yes, very quickly, thank you. I know you're all familiar with the form-based code. I've had the opportunity, thankfully, to do a couple of presentations for the board. Of course, over the course of the last year and a half, we have done Park Street walking tours. We have done public charrettes. Just a few weeks ago, we did a visual preference survey, which was very so.
I do think you've gotten the fitness level of the residents of Ayer
Yes.
up a bit with all
Yes.
these walking tours.
It's
you know?
and me too. So, again, the whole thing is moving very well. And again, what I've submitted to you here is just an outline with, very hard schedule, laying out very clearly, right up through, again, to a, if in fact it happens, we do, engage in a special town meeting. But we are going to have this all ready for our springtime, whether it is just the, standard spring town meeting or a special. I've already begun, frankly, the code is already being drafted now. I'm drafting it. We are not making use of any professional consultants, because this is what I do as a consultant, so I don't need to hire anyone else to do that. The other good part is I have engaged with my landscape architect. I'll be sitting down with the town manager, assistant town manager, in the next couple of days, just to review the proposed contractual agreement with the landscape architect. I've actually worked with this gentleman when I worked up in Maine, so he knows his stuff. We already have a groove, so I'm able to frankly reduce the cost substantially because I've worked with him on other form-based codes. He has my template. We're good to go. So all said and done, I'll just point out one thing, if you do notice what I laid out here in this outline. I will be working in unison with the planning board and formulating and producing and delivering this code. As you see right through the schedule, I will be at every planning board meeting, going through, doing updates. I'll be working closely with Mark going forward. So really, what we hope that this product is going to be a product of the members of the planning board. I hope that they will be experts in form-based codes at the end of this process. We all will. And again, bringing it a very strong code for the town meeting. We're also going to do a couple of more public charrettes, invite people. And I'll be meeting specifically with all the property owners on Park Street as well, having individual sessions going through this. The bottom line is, none of this should be in any way a surprise to anyone involved in this process, like right through to the property owners on Park Street, right up to just a resident of Ayer who's a taxpayer. We want to make sure everyone knows what this is, really familiar with it, so by the time we get to the town meeting, I say, of course, Alan, we know all about form-based code. I could write a form-based code right now, yeah. And again, I think as Robert said, this is something, Park Street, it has been in our master plans now for 22 years plus, saying Park Street is to be woven into the actual functional fabric of the downtown. We know one thing is for certain, our conventional use-based zoning will not deliver that. It won't happen. It's going to require form-based code. And frankly, a couple of the investors that are looking at some properties on Park Street, they are fully supportive of saying, my God, if this could function more like the Main Street, we would love it. With sidewalk, on-street parking, the buildings functioning. And wouldn't it be nice to start our parades and all our things, and including Park Street finally in this, so that it functionally, it's all the same pattern. So it's very exciting, and we're going to deliver. It's going to be the best form-based code that I have ever produced in my career. That's my personal goal and professional goal. Going to be a masterpiece.
So, Madam Chair, Selectman Hood, and we're not looking for, obviously, a decision tonight. But as you can see, and we will keep the board updated if this changes, but as planned, no pun intended, both of these will be teed up, if you will, for the spring, the annual town meeting. The concern is that we need these to be successful, and I just think that adding them on to the annual town meeting is a challenge. The other challenge we have, and the board knows this as well as I do, that we also have a very narrow window that frankly after Memorial Day, I mean, this year's annual town meeting is on May 13th. After Memorial Day, people go into summer mode, and I mean, we generally, to have a special town meeting in the summer. So we are continuing to look at, and I just want the board to be thinking, and I understand there would be a cost and so forth, of a potential special town meeting that would be dedicated to the marijuana and the form-based code. And then the third issue, in the interest of time, we would do in the fall. So just, again, some have said, why don't you just wait till the fall for all of them? But the marijuana, we have got to get the marijuana zoning. And frankly, Mr. Minoyan's form-based code for Park Street, we also need to move that forward to make progress on not only the economics of the transportation, but the aesthetics of that whole corridor. So I appreciate the time for both of you. We welcome any suggestions or so forth, but I felt it important, you know, it's only December 4th, that we begin to think about how do we successfully accomplish these two things through town meeting. I appreciate it.
Well, first, I just want to say I did not roll my eyes when I saw, zoning. But my first initial thought was definitely separate meeting.
I agree.
Absolutely. And just, of course, no decision, just throwing it out there. But now you've said May 13th is annual town meeting. I think we should try to do it in May, but maybe after annual town meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know if like the week
Town meeting
after.
2 weeks after.
Well, we might have to, because the other benefit is that we're, and this, of course, we have to talk it out and everything, but the other benefit I was thinking is because when we have them all in the room at Springtown meeting, we can say, look, here it is,
Yeah. So I wanted to be.
Yeah.
It might be good to use as informational springboard for the next town meeting.
Yeah.
For the zoning. Yeah. That's a good point.
It just, once Memorial Day hits, people are out of town, kids are leaving school, and it gets tough. I mean, we might be able to do it like at least after.
If we had to.
We might be able to do it like maybe, right after Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
We'd still be able to, have a date to announce it, whatnot. And then as far as the super town meeting, maybe we'll get lucky and it'll all flow together. But I think this initial plan looks good as far as, trying to roll it out.
So what we will do in terms of next steps, we will obviously continue to keep this board updated and continue to refine that. Respectfully, if the board, because you call a special town meeting, it's your authority and so forth, just be thinking about, again, this concept of a special town meeting. That I agree is sometime in May, early June.
Very early June.
Very early June, but.
Yeah. Before school's out.
Yeah.
June.
Yeah.
It would have to be before school's out. Because once school's out, people are out of town. And I mean, I think April would be a little too ambitious.
Yeah.
And also, that's, we have the election, so I mean, basically, we're gonna have people showing up for a lot of things. We got an election, we got town
And
meeting, then we'll have
that's-
this thing, possibly super town meeting if that doesn't fit in with the schedule and everything, so.
And we,
And then we'll roll into the fall town meeting.
no, we keep that in mind.
I think we should just have town meeting like every month.
First and third Tuesdays of
Right.
every month.
Yeah.
So I just, again, appreciate the time, and let's just continue to work this scheduling challenge.
Madam Chair, if I may, because we're looking to have a successful or
Successful.
streamlined
Very.
zoning discussion at town meeting, it is important for us to get a date and work backwards so we can make sure that the planning board has signed off on everything before we get it to the printer, get it to you guys to send to the printer. So we're like thinking 6 months out always, but just the sooner we do have a date, or it's even helpful end of May, beginning of June, that helps kind of work backwards.
Yeah.
Like, when's the latest we want?
If we could decide at the next meeting, I think that would be, because we are doing some internal stuff, but we really want to have our deadlines set so that the planning board is all on board, everyone knows what's going on. But Mark and Alan and I and Robert were discussing that, is you guys tell us the date and we'll work backwards from there
Okay.
to make sure everyone's all on the same page. So.
All right, well, my recommendation is that we sit down and look at a calendar and try to come up with the best plan.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Sounds
hard
good.
without the calendar in front of us, and, yeah, so
Yeah.
hopefully we
For
should
the
be able to
18th.
come up
Yeah.
with a consensus at the next meeting.
And we'll
I
take a
do
look
think it's a good
tomorrow,
idea
too.
Right.
to have a
Yeah.
goal.
Okay. All right.
And we'll reinforce the key to doing good zoning presentations for, as I say, for normal people, unlike us who live in this world of visual.
Are you trying to say
Presentations
there's
have to
normal
be
people at this table? 'Cause
Visual.
Your normal
No more
have to be
text.
exceedingly
Okay, yeah.
visual, and if there is text and it has to be legal, that must be associated with a visual. So it's visual, and this is what helps people connect. Because zoning actually has to do with the most fundamental things in our everyday lives. It isn't this abstract, dry thing, actually. It's just the way often those of us in our field, all of us, we sort of present in this very just legal, and this is when people just, So you're going to see highly visual presentations on this.
We'll do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Quick-
Thank
well,
you.
Hold on.
Wait a
You brought up
minute,
the-
Scott's
Oh.
not done yet.
Oh, yeah.
Hold
The
on.
Petapauwick.
Oh, the Petapauwick,
I'm
yes.
curious what that is.
The northern part of Ayer, that's sort of to the right of the developed area, to the east of it, I should say, and north of the ponds on the Groton border, that's practically a wilderness area. And it's.
Which
been-
pond?
Long
the-
Pond?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Long Pond and.
Say
and
north,
North of the ponds,
Yes,
all of the
lost.
ponds. It's heavily forested, a lot of, ledge, wetlands. It's very hard to develop, but it's also, open to development. So, the master plan recognizes the unique values of that area. It's also an area of critical environmental concern at the state level. It's, rare habitat for many different species, and so we want to make sure that the zoning supports greater protection for that area while still allowing, reasonable development to occur, but affording it a greater degree of protection than it presently has.
And we're not only protecting the wildlife and the habitat and all that, you're protecting your taxpayers. We cannot afford sprawling, diffused residential development out there. You'll go broke in the long run, sustaining and maintaining it. That's why it's interesting, the presentation on the air solar too. We're all in favor of quality, what we call graceful density, good dense stuff. But it's where it is. We want to see that type of density more close to a town center where all the infrastructure, all certain stuff. We start doing that type of density out there in the middle, the taxpayers will be bled dry down the road if we do that type of development in this town. So we can speak for the habitat. I'll talk about
I wanted to add
the
something
taxpayers.
Wait a minute, we got a quick question.
Madam Chair, I wanted to add a little bit to the description provided by Mr. Archibald about the location of the ACEC. And one of the primary lower boundaries, the southern boundary of that ACEC, is made up by the transmission lines that are just south where we live on Madigan Drive, including the location of Ayer Sewer 2 and the proposed discussion that was held earlier this evening. That location is within the Petapawag ACDC.
Interesting.
So I was happy to hear that there's a potential overlay district coming from the ACDC.
I was just gonna see if I could pull it up for visual on Google Earth.
Madam
Wasn't what I
Chair,
was expecting when I turned around.
as we discussed, this
So it
one.
would be up in
Yeah,
here, right, Mark?
yes, that area.
Yeah, right up in here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's heavily forested. You know, I call it the Groton-Ayer Triangle because if you zoom in, you see that there's a triangle formed by the power line easements.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's, right.
You're right.
Yeah. For every 5 hikers that go in there, only 2 come out. So.
Look out for the bobcats.
Right.
Ken, you always come out.
Yeah, so that area definitely deserves special attention.
And in our discussions, Madam Chair, on that internally, that would be for the fall town meeting, and the selectmen we would do a presentation to this board in advance of that. So that one, the time, it's extremely important, but that fits into the fall schedule.
All right, excellent.
All right.
Anything else, Scott, before they leave?
No, all set. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, thank you.
Zoning.
All right, thank you, guys.
And Madam Chair, last but not least, as we discussed last time, the January 2019 BOS meeting schedule. As the board is aware, you generally meet the first and third Tuesdays of the month, but in January, the first Tuesday is New Year's Day, January 1st, which is a holiday and the town meeting is closed. So the third Tuesday, which is January 15th, is not an issue, but as we discussed at the last minute, if the board wanted to discuss when to have that first meeting in January, an alternate day or day time.
So, quick question. Remind me, this is because this plays into what day we were able to pick or something. Remind me, how heavy is our usual, as far as the usual stuff that always appears? I'm not talking about the other stuff that, so that we can try to figure out the plan. I mean, I'm open into meeting on that Wednesday, the 2nd. I'm open to that, and we could formalize the decision on the 18th.
I'd be open to meeting on the 2nd also.
Yeah, and then that way, on the 15th, we're back to our regular schedule.
Yeah.
So if we meet the 2nd, we'd have to post it
Yeah, we'd have to post it like
Friday, the 28th, because
Doesn't have to be
that would-
business days that the town hall is open that we need to.
right,
post
so
that.
the 28th in the morning, as long as we did it by 7 on the 28th, because then the 31st would count.
Okay.
So would it be better to maybe try to post it on the 27th?
Yep.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
could shoot for that, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't have any issues with January 2nd, and if you want to wait till the 18th if Selectman Hillman's back, or I think the 2nd makes sense.
I mean, we can.
It makes sense, but let's wait till Chris
Yeah.
comes back
Yeah,
if he's
we'll
planning on
formalize
coming
the
back at the
decision.
next meeting.
But just so we're
Yeah.
thinking, okay. And then the 15th, there's no, that's the usual.
Yeah. Okay.
Madam Chair, that completes my report. Thank you both for your time this evening.
Thank you. Scott.
All right. So, update on the buy board. Bear with me while I read from my notes. So, the buy board met on November 15th to discuss the upcoming budget cycle. Primarily, the conversation around the budget was a review of the deliverables for November and December on the budget calendar. The capital planning process is just beginning, and budget submissions are due from the departments in December. The budget directive was sent out by Mr. Pomprian on November 14th. Highlights are primarily we're looking at no personnel increases, adding headcount, the need to ensure some sustainability of operating expenses as we go forward, and being conscious that capital projects are in line with our ability to execute these projects, and also mindful of the impact on the taxpayers. And part of the conversation was the number of projects that we've approved that haven't actually been started or, more importantly, completed.
Right.
So we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We had some general discussion about the school field project around the cost, the vote process, and the funding mechanisms. We discussed further the budget book, laid out the goal of the items that we want to include for FY 2020. And a budget book is what some communities do that incorporates just a boatload of information around the budget process and everything from glossary of terms, how the budget process works, organization of town hall, organizational charts, and then the budget itself. So we've talked about some good ideas for that for year one, because we don't want to go too headstrong into it. And I laid out my goal is to do it more of as a 3-year plan. You know, do a little bit this year, add on to it next year, and then add on to it the year after. And yeah,
Before I
certainly.
forget, is this like the new financial policy thing too?
That's what I'm getting to next.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it would include the financial policies,
Okay.
which are separate, and they are long overdue for an update. So the group was all given our homework assignment. We are reviewing the financial policies, and we have to come to the January meeting with any updates or changes that we want to see implemented. And then after we get together and we have that initial look at the new financial policies, we'll get together a formal committee to formalize those updates and then come to presentation to the Board of Selectmen. So, and that was the Buy Board meeting in all of its glory.
I love the Buy Board meeting. I never knew what it was. I love it.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. I look
Anything else
forward
you
to
wanna
that little
This Selectman Hood did a fabulous job, and I just want to add, we also have invited the treasurer tax collector, Miss Tierney, to join the buy board, and she is excited, so.
It gets along. It's so nice. Just reminiscing. No, all serious. I know I said it in a joking manner, but I really do look forward to when you put
Thank
this
you.
on the agenda
Yeah.
and everything. So,
My pleasure.
all right. Anything else?
You did the minutes.
No.
Yep, I know. I
So
feel
we're-
like something's missing.
We got a
So,
lot of signing to do.
oh, we got a lot of
Yeah.
signing to do. So,
We
quick
can do that after
reminder.
hours, right?
December 11th, we have an election. This weekend, you have a lot of music and singing going on in here in the town hall. So, don't miss it. So,
All right.
anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
I will make a motion to adjourn Board of Selectmen at 9:23 p.m.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Good night, everyone.